Yes, sir. Proceed, sir. Started.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Uh, Hello, good evening, everyone. I think in the last class we covered the cornea majority. I think 90-95% we have covered the cornea part. Today we will start with the fresh topic, that is the conjunctiva. In the first class, if you remember, in the conjunctiva, I have taken the anatomy of the conjunctiva. So we'll start straight away with the microbiology of the conjunctiva. Okay. So we know conjunctiva has So the conjunctiva has four parts. One, this suppose this is the eyelid. You have an eyeball. Okay, this is the eyelid. So the conjunctiva has a tarsal part. Then you have the palpebral part. Then you have the pharyngeal part. Okay. Then this is the bulbar conjunctiva. Okay. And normally the conjunctiva refers to, it joins the eyeball to the eyelid. So it conjoins the two surfaces. And basically it harbors some of the microorganisms which are harmless, known as the commensals. And what are the commensals? You should know these things. This is very important topic. How I remember like this: A, B, C, D, E. Okay. So to begin with, Staphylococcus albus, A for albus, B for, I remember like this, it's a propionobacterium. Okay. Acnes. Then you have for the C, there are two microorganisms. So one is Corynebacterium xerosis. Then you have something known as Neisseria cateralis. Then for the D, you have diphtheroids. For the E, you have epidermidis. Okay. This you must know at any cost, because you should know how to differentiate between a pathogen from a commensals, and rest of the organisms are basically the pathogens. And whenever they are present, rarely they are, though they are pathogen, rarely they are present in the conjunctival fornix. Next, what are the symptoms of a conjunctival problem? If you have any problem, pathology, if you have any problem with the conjunctiva, what are the problems they will present with? So they can have a redness, stickiness, and they can have a foreign body sensation because of any organ, any kind of material which is present in the sac. You can have a lacrimation. Photophobia indicates there is a corneal involvement in the case of conjunctival disease. Similarly, you can have a burning sensation. Again, a blurring of vision is not due to corneal conjunctival problem, but it's attributed to the corneal problem. Okay, you should know these things. In the late sequelae, the patients can develop a dryness of the eyes. Once the disease has what you call settled down, the patient might develop the dryness of the eye. So coming to what are the signs? Those were the symptoms. Coming to the what are the signs? You have hyperemia or the redness. Then you have a discharge from the conjunctiva. Then you can have a response, inflammatory response, maybe in the form of follicles, papillae, or a granuloma formation. You can have a subconjunctival hemorrhage, especially in the case of traumatic corneal conditions. Then you can have a chemosis, that is nothing but the conjunctival edema. Okay. So let's discuss one by one. What is hyperemia? Hyperemia means the redness of the what you call the conjunctiva. So what are the causes for this? The redness can be, it's acute or recurrent or chronic in nature. And what are the causes? Maybe because of anything, which is any foreign body within the sac will produce the redness. Any trichatic eyelashes which is rubbing the cornea will, or the conjunctiva will produce the redness. Similarly, any allergic reactions or alcohol intake, that is very important, because that will cause the vasodilatation. Okay, because of which the eye looks like a hyperemic. Then we have a conjunctival discharge. Conjunctival discharge can be depending on the consistency of the fluid. It can be watery in nature, especially in the case of foreign bodies. Watery are little bit slightly thicker than the what you call slightly thicker than the water, that is a mucoid in nature. which is seen in allergic or viral conjunctivitis, or it can be like a pus formation, that is a mucopurulent or a purulent. That is very commonly seen in bacterial conjunctivitis. So what are the inflammatory response? Inflammatory response are they will have a follicle formation. What is a follicle basically? So the follicles are nothing but, suppose this is the elevated lesion. Okay, these are the elevated lesion you can make out here. Suppose this is the elevated lesion. On microscopy, how it looks? In the center there will be infiltration by the inflammatory cells, and below that there will be vascularization. Okay, and normally they look like a yellowish white lesions surrounded by, there will be hyperemia. Okay, and you have something known as a papillae formation. What is papillae? How do you differentiate? This is a follicle, yellowish white lesion that you can make out. Then you have a papillae. Microscopically, what is a papillae? Papillae, again, this is an elevated lesion similar to that, but here you have vascular front in the center and surrounded by the infiltration. Okay, you can make out here. They look like basically hard. They are very soft in nature. Okay, and surrounding these hard lesions, you have a hyperemic area. Okay, then you have a granuloma formation. Sometimes because of any retained any foreign bodies, like maybe hair follicles, or maybe because of any dust particle, sometimes because of a suture material. In that condition, what happens? Again, you'll have a elevated, either it can be like a sessile or it can be like a pedunculated. Okay, it can arise. This is the conjunctival surface. It can arise like this, or from the conjunctival surface, it might arise like this. So how microscopy looks? Suppose this is there will be in the center, there will be a foreign body. Surrounding that, there will be collection of all inflammatory cells, which are multinucleated giant cells or epithelioid cells. Okay, they will surrounds the foreign body. Okay, just like similar to any granulomas in the body. See, this is the granuloma. It's a sessile form of a pyogenic granuloma. So then we have a subconjunctival hemorrhage. Subconjunctival hemorrhage, it's very obvious. You can make out there will be a collection of blood, and the other part of the conjunctiva looks normal, healthy. Okay, what are the causes? It's purely because of trauma, or sometimes because of what you call, it's a age related. In a hypertensive patients, we will see subconjunctival hemorrhage, and it's asymptomatic. Patients are asymptomatic. And what is the last sign of the conjunctival problem? That is the chemosis. In a chemosis means the conjunctival edema. Okay, where do you see the conjunctival edema? How it looks? If you look at the conjunctiva, it will be swollen and it will be like a gelatinous in appearance. Okay, because of the exudation of the fluid. And what are the causes for this? You will see in the acute inflammation like orbital cellulitis. Okay, then in case of any obstruction of the circulations, like any tumor in the orbit, or thyroid eye disease, where there will be what you call the congestion because of the muscles are thickened. Because of that, there will be drainage problem, because of which there will be retrograde collection of the fluid in the conjunctiva. Similarly, some of the systemic problems like anemia, nephritis, okay, in those conditions you can see. Coming to the infection of the conjunctiva, the conjunctival infections can be classified based on the onset as an acute, subacute, or a chronic form. Then you have what are the acute forms and what are the chronic conjunctivitis. When you say it's acute conjunctivitis, suppose if the duration, the total duration is less than 4 weeks, then it's acute conjunctivitis. When it's more than 4 weeks, when the duration is prolonged for more than 4 weeks, then it's a chronic conjunctivitis. Okay, what are the causes? How do you remember these things? See, acute, bacteria is the most important culprit. Then you have a chlamydial. One should not forget chlamydial. In conjunctiva, you should remember chlamydia. That is very, very important. Okay, chlamydia, bacterial. Then you have all viral infections. Okay, so you have bacterial, chlamydial, and a viral conjunctivitis will produce what you call the acute conjunctivitis, which lasts less than 4 weeks. Similarly, what are the causes for the chronic conjunctivitis? Very easy to remember again. See, chlamydia has a two forms. One is an acute form, one is a chronic form. Acute form causes the conjunctivitis. The chronic form is known as the trachoma. Okay, so chronic form, one of the cause for the chronic conjunctivitis is the trachoma, followed by the granulomatous conjunctivitis. Okay, just in anywhere else in the body, you have a granulomatous reaction. Similarly, it will take a very long time. So you can remember you have a tuberculosis, syphilis, or leprosy. Okay, if you remember these things, it's very easy to recollect. Then you have something known as ophthalmia nodosa. What do you mean by ophthalmia nodosa? Whenever any foreign body which falls into the conjunctival sac, then for like maybe a foreign body, a stone particle, or a hair follicle, or sutures. Okay, these will induce a foreign body reaction that will take, again, it will last for more than 4 weeks. So based on the type of exudation, conjunctivitis can be based on the type of secretion. Exudate means the type of secretion. It can be if the secretion is like a serous, just like a watery discharge. The cause could be viral. You have to remember this, viral, okay, and a toxic. Then, if it is slightly more viscous than the serous form, then it's called the mucinous or a catarrhal form. So the causes are allergic. Okay, so in allergic reaction, you can have a watery discharge or you can have a mucus discharge. Okay, one should not forget. And rest of the things, whether it is a purulent, mucopurulent, membranous form, or a pseudomembranous form, all are because of bacterial. Okay, one should not forget. The chlamydia will cause a mucopurulent. What do you mean by a mucopurulent? Very simple. When the pus is mixed with the mucus secretion, that is a mucopurulent. Very simple. So based on the conjunctival response, okay, that already we have discussed, it can be a follicular conjunctivitis or a papillary conjunctivitis or a granulomatous conjunctivitis. Okay, the cause for a papillary conjunctivitis, here comes, it's a very interesting point. You should remember, it's an allergic, all allergic conjunctivitis will have a papillary response. You should not forget, because this question has been asked in many times in the exams, many entrance exams. Okay, what are the cause for a follicular conjunctivitis? Majority of the time, it's a viral or a chlamydial. Chlamydial will, in the early stages, will cause a follicular conjunctivitis. Okay, then comes what is known as a, what are the, we will discuss one by one in detail. What are the cause for a follicular conjunctivitis? Again, the question has been asked with regard to the follicular conjunctivitis. So the follicular conjunctivitis can be either acute form or a chronic form. Okay, so what are the causes? How do you remember? I told you, right? The chlamydial inclusion conjunctivitis, okay, also known as a trick. Okay, trachoma inclusion conjunctivitis. Okay, so chlamydial infection and all the viral infections. So basically, chlamydia and viral will cause acute follicular reaction. Okay, then what are the cause for a chronic follicular conjunctivitis? A drug-induced, most commonly in ophthalmic use, it's a pilocarpine. Okay, the pilocarpine, which is used in sometimes in a acute angle closure glaucoma. Okay, where when it is used, that will cause a chronic follicular conjunctivitis. A trachoma, it's a chronic form of a chlamydial infection. This is an acute infection. It's a chronic infection, will cause a follicular conjunctivitis. Pediculosis, okay, the hair infection, especially the ciliary infection, will cause a chronic follicular conjunctivitis. Similarly, molluscum of the eyelid will cause the chronic follicular conjunctivitis. This you must know. What are the cause for a follicular conjunctivitis? Because the question has been asked many times. So based on the other way of classifying the conjunctivitis is based on the cause. What is the cause? So based on the cause, whether it is infectious or a non-infectious. What are the cause for infectious? Very simple. You go accordingly: bacterial, fungal, viral, or a parasitic. And what are the cause for the non-infectious? Either it's allergic, irritants, endogenous. Okay, many times we have discussed endogenous or autoimmune cause for a conjunctivitis, dry eyes, toxic, or it could be because of an unknown etiology. Okay, so we will solve some of the questions. This question was asked in PGI 2010. A follicular conjunctivitis are found in all except. Okay, the options are: you have herpes simplex conjunctivitis, drug-induced conjunctivitis, adult inclusion conjunctivitis, allergic conjunctivitis, molluscum. Okay, who will answer this question? Anybody?
Allergic conjunctivitis.
Yeah, very good. Okay, what do you see in allergic conjunctivitis? What's your name?
Papillary. Chaitanya.
Very good. Okay, it's a papillary. So here, I think you might get a little bit confused. What is this adult inclusion conjunctivitis? If you know, I will tell you in the class. Okay, chlamydial infection. Chlamydial infection is caused by Trochomatis, Chlamydia trochomatis, and also by psittacosis. Okay, so in a Chlamydia trachomatis has a serotypes A, B, C, and you have from D to K serotypes. A, B, C will cause a chronic conjunctivitis known as a trachoma. And serotypes D and K will cause a acute conjunctivitis known as TRIC. Trachoma inclusion conjunctivitis or adult inclusion conjunctivitis, okay, or acute inclusion chlamydia inclusion conjunctivitis. Okay, these are all the other alternative names for this condition. Similarly, you have one more serotype known as a L1, L2, L3. These serotypes will cause something known as a LGV. LGV means lymphogranuloma venerum. Okay. Again, this will cause genital infection. Then you have also ocular infection. So there should not be any confusion. Adult inclusion conjunctivitis refers to the chlamydial infection. Drug induced. So the only option is the allergic conjunctivitis. Staphylococcal conjunctivitis, this question was asked in 2001 PJ Chandigarh. Staphylococcal conjunctivitis is associated with all except. Okay. So the options are corneal margin infiltration, flictenular conjunctivitis, vernal conjunctivitis, hardiolum, follicular conjunctivitis. Who will answer? Again, the simple answer is very simple, but you should know what are these conditions. Okay. Now your concern is, I don't know these conditions, but how should I choose the answer? Okay. So the staphylococcal infection will cause a blepharitis. Blepharitis will release a toxins. This will, okay, present in the tear, will cause a corneal infection. Last time we studied, that is a, what is that? Terriens marginal degeneration or the ulcer. Okay, this is because of the toxins. So this is a corneal margin infiltration is because of this. Then you have a flictenular conjunctivitis. Again, we know the flictenular conjunctivitis from the basically from the classes, is due to hypersensitivity reaction to a tubercular antigen. This was in the olden days. Now TB is becoming less and less more what you call the prevalent. Now the staphylococcal infection is becoming more and more. So now the most common cause for a flictenular conjunctivitis is the staphylococcal infection. You should remember this. So again, staphylococcal conjunctivitis can also cause flictanular conjunctivitis. And you have next, what is a hardiolum? You should know what is an hardiolum. Hardiolum is, see, basically there will be infection of the, it can be internal hardiolum or a external hardiolum. Suppose this is the eyelid. Suppose this is the eyelid. You have a, what you call the, you have a meibomian gland, then you have a hair follicle here. Then to the hair follicle, there is one more gland which will get attached. The name of the gland is gland of anybody?
Mall.
Zeiss. Zeiss. Okay, Zeiss, Zeiss, whatever. Okay. This is the meibomian gland. So whenever there is an infection of the meibomian gland, this is known as an internal hardiolum. So how do you remember? This is inner side. Remember, this is an internal hardiolum. This is outside towards the skin. So that will produce an external hardiolum. That is the best way to remember. So the hardiolum can be internal or external hardiolum. And what is a chalazion? One more term which is related to this word is a chalazion. You should know what is a chalazion. Chalazion is whenever there is when the pore of the meibomian gland get closed, inside there will be secretion, collection of the secretion, because the meibomian gland is a sebaceous gland that secretes the sebum. So when this pore get closed, there will be collection of the sebum that will act as a foreign body. Okay, when this act as a foreign body, there will be a surrounding inflammation that will form a granuloma, like a granuloma. So it's basically a sterile inflammation that will form a granuloma. This doesn't have any infection, but whenever there is a hardiolum, that is an internal and external hardiolum, that is purely because of infection. Infection, just like a pimple on the face, you have an infection of the glands of the eyelid that will produce the pain and the swelling, everything. Only on examination you will be able to make out whether it is an internal or an external hardiolum. So again, infection is most commonly caused by a staphylococcus. So again, hardiolum is related to the staphylococcus conjunctivitis. So the only option here is, what is the answer? Now you should be able to tell me. Anybody? That's a follicular conjunctivitis. Anybody has a doubt? Did you understand? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
See, this is how you should be able to rule out. Okay, slowly, stepwise, you will learn everything. Then coming to one by one, what are the cause for the conjunctivitis? Based on the etiology, we have a bacterial conjunctivitis. In the bacterial conjunctivitis, you have all spectrum of the organisms, starting from a gram negative, gram positive to a gram negative, all, whether it is a cocci or a bacillus, all organisms causes bacterial conjunctivitis, out of which the most common one is Staphylococcus aureus. You should remember this. And it's very highly contagious and transmitted directly. And out of which, one of the most important conjunctivitis is a gonorrheal conjunctivitis. It's a very severe purulent conjunctivitis. And this Neisseria gonorrhea is basically, it's a gram negative diplococci, which causes a very severe purulent conjunctivitis, and patient will have a preauricular lymph node enlargement. Remember, only bacterial and viral conjunctivitis, you will have a preauricular lymph node enlargement. Okay, and how it's different from another form of a conjunctivitis? They can have a presence of a urethritis, because it's basically a sexually transmitted disease. So the patient will have a coincidence of a urethritis. And whenever, because of we know that gonoconesaria basically crosses the intact corneal epithelium, so it can produce what you call the marginal ulceration of the cornea. What are the other organisms which penetrate the intact cornea? Last time I told you these organisms eat cornea as a lunch. So A, S, L. Do you remember? We don't have anything with the U. Anybody? Acanthamoeba. Okay. Then you have a Shigella. You have a Listeria. With N we have a Neisseria. Okay. With C we have a Cornybacterium. With H we have a Haemophilus aegyptus. Hope you remember these things. Huh? This is very important. The organisms which crosses the intact corneal epithelium. And following, if the patient is recovered, post sequelae, the patient will develop arthritis. This is very important. Sometimes this gonorrheal conjunctivitis will produce very excessive, the watering or mucopurulent discharge. That's why it's known as a hyperacute conjunctivitis or acute blenorrhea. So how do you treat these cases? Give a warm saline, very simple, and a topical antibiotics. Always remember topical. In ophthalmology, you should remember topical antibiotics. That is what you call the fluoroquinolones. Fluoroquinolones, now the fourth generation, is also a treatment of choice. Then you have a tobramycin. This is an excellent eye drop. Then you have a gentamicin, especially in small kids. These eye drops are very good. Then whenever there is iridocyclitis, you start the patient on cycloplegics. Whenever a patient has a arthritis or a urethritis or a genital organ infection, you need to start the patient on ceftriaxone. That is the drug of choice. You should remember. And whenever a patient is allergic to penicillin, then the drug of choice is tetracycline. The drug of choice in all cases is a ceftriaxone. When a patient is allergic to penicillin, you give tetracycline. This question was asked in AIDS 2013. Patient with conjunctival infection which led to the corneal perforation was positive for gram negative gram-negative cocci was positive for a gram-negative cocci appearance on the gram stain. Further investigation showed a small translucent colonies which is oxidase positive. Okay, what could be the most probable causative organism? So you have to remember important words: corneal perforation, gram-negative infection with cocci, and oxidase positive. Okay, the question is very the examiner is very smart. Yes, framed the question in such a way that all organisms are oxidase positive. Okay, so whether it is a Moraxella, Neisseria, or Pseudomonas, all are oxidase positive. Hope you know what do you mean by oxidase positive. Anybody? Anybody? See, what do you mean by oxidase positive? Suppose the organisms which normally has a respiratory chain, it has a respiratory chain. There are only certain organisms which has a enzyme known as cytochrome C oxidase. Okay, this is the one of the enzyme of a respiratory chain. This is not present in all the organisms. Only certain respiratory, but this is not present in all the organisms. Only certain organisms has this what you call the enzyme. So what they are doing is they are this transport the electron from a donor agent to an acceptor agent. So this is the principle in an oxidase test where it transfers the electron from a donor to an agent. Donor can be any kind of dye. When the dye into the when you inject a dye into a what you call the culture, that will convert the media into a blue color or a purple color. So then it's a oxidase positive. Okay. See, all the organisms are oxidase positive. Again, all the organisms are gram negative. Okay. Trick question. But here, if you remember, corneal perforation. This is very important. The only organism which causes the corneal perforation is with what you call is a Neisseria gonorrhea. Though Pseudomonas will cause corneal perforation, but intact cornea is a Neisseria gonorrhea. Okay. Now, other forms of a conjunctivitis. It can be membranous or a pseudomembranous conjunctivitis. What do you mean by membranous and a pseudomembranous conjunctivitis? So again, it's a very severe form of a conjunctivitis. Whenever what you call the exudate, which forms a membrane over the surface of the conjunctiva, which can be peeled off easily without causing any bleeding, is known as a pseudomembrane. And when the epithelial cells which detaches from the surrounding structure and that forms a thick what you call the membrane which is tightly adherent to the underlying surface, when you try to peel it off, that will bleed. That is a membranous bleeding. Bleeding will be present. And as I told you, all bacterial conjunctivitis or a viral conjunctivitis, you will have a preauricular lymph node enlargement. Whenever you try to remove the membrane, you are going to damage, then there will be a formation of symblepharon. And all, whether it is staphylococcus, streptococcus, whichever, that will cause a marginal corneal ulceration. That you have to remember. Here, the most important causes of a membranous or a pseudomembranous conjunctivitis are diphtheриal and a streptococcal conjunctivitis. So, how do you treat topical penicillin or a systemic penicillin with the anti-diphtheриal serum? And again, in a streptococcal infection, the treatment of choice, a topical penicillin and a bacitracin ointment and a systemic penicillin. You have to remember these things. So coming to the third form of a conjunctivitis, which is very common, again, it's an angular form of a conjunctivitis. Okay. Here, the only organism which causes the angular conjunctivitis is the Moraxella lacunata. You have to remember this. And also the Staphylococcus, out of which Moraxella is the most commonest cause for a angular conjunctivitis. Normally, what will happen at the corners, whether it is the lateral canthus or the medial canthus, at the corners, the patient will have a redness where they will have a white discharge coming from here, and the surrounding bulbar conjunctiva will have a redness, and the overlying skin also become excoriated because the patient will have a very intense itching, because of frequent rubbing, patient will develop excoriation of the skin. So what is the treatment of choice here? Tetracycline. You have to remember. So this question was asked in 2013 and 2000. Angular conjunctivitis is caused by, very simple, it's a Moraxella. A specific topical remedy suggested for angular conjunctivitis is, who will answer? Anybody? Okay, here, see, the options are, I told you the only treatment of choice is tetracycline, but the options are entirely different here. You have a dexamethasone, sulfacetamide, zinc sulfate, you have a penicillin. I told you the patient in angular conjunctivitis will have overlying skin excoriation. Whenever there is excoriation, that can form an ulcer formation. To prevent that, we give something known as a zinc ointment and also vitamin A ointment. These are important treatment remedies in the case of angular conjunctivitis. So the option here is zinc sulfate. Coming to the chlamydial infection, whether it is acute form or a chronic form, again many questions has been asked from this single topic. At least around 5 to 10 questions has been asked. So that I told you, right? What are the different serotypes of a chlamydia organism? Chlamydia trachomatis, again, the acute form is caused because of serotypes from D to K. It's a sexually transmitted disease, also known as a swimming pool conjunctivitis, because it's sometimes it's spread from a swimming pool where all majority whoever get infected through what you call the contaminated water, and also during the childbirth you will have the baby can get infected. What are the clinical features? They will have an acute onset. They will have a follicular hypertrophy. You have to remember this. And to begin with, the lower eyelid will be involved. Then they will have a exudates, and all cases will have a SPKs, corneal involvement. And you should know they will have a pannus formation. What is pannus formation? Suppose this is the cornea, pannus. Then there will be the cornea will get invaded by the blood vessels, and also they will leak out all the inflammatory cells. Okay, whenever this is known as a pannus. Pannus is a vascularization with infiltration. It can be either a progressive one or a regressive one. Regressive one, whenever the blood vessels, there will be what you call blood vessels are in the front and infiltrations in the back. What progressive one? Progressive one, when the infiltrations are in the what you call infiltrates precedes the what you call the blood vessels, and they can have a genital infection. And one of the most commonest cause for a non-gonococcal reactive arthritis is chlamydial infection. So what are the investigations? Similar to any other organisms, you should remember these, whether it is especially in a conjunctival disease, either we use direct immunofluorescent, PCR, ELISA methods, or staining method. For a chlamydia, the culture media is a McCoy cell culture. You should remember this. So how do you treat? Acute chlamydial conjunctivitis is a benign in nature. Okay, heals spontaneously. You should remember, not like what you call the chronic form. So in the early stages, how do you treat? Topically, the treatment of choice is tetracycline or azithromycin. You should remember. And systemic, whenever the patient has a urethritis or arthritis, then you start the patient on tetracycline, erythromycin, and doxycycline. These are the same group of tablet, and you have a erythromycin. Chronic form of a conjunctivitis known as a trachoma. This is caused by the serotypes A, B, C, A, B, B, A, C. And what are the predisposing factors? It's very common in children and female because of unhygienic and crowded areas, and usually it's transmitted from the conjunctival secretion. Again, this has a follicular hypertrophy. The patient will have a follicular hypertrophy. That is the most important thing. Then here in a chronic conjunctivitis, you will have an upper lid involvement. Okay, especially the tarsal conjunctiva. Again, they will have a SPKs. They will have a pannus formation. You should know, and you should know what is a Herbert Pitts. See, whenever this is the cornea, you have a conjunctiva here. Here in this part, what happens? Here the follicles which ruptures and they will form a pitted scar known as a Herbert Pitts. Then when the cornea is involved, you can have a corneal opacity. And because of what you call the fibrosis of the conjunctiva, you can have a ptosis. That is known as a trachomatous ptosis. And patient will have, because the conjunctiva is involved, they will have an entropion, interning of the eyelashes, and there will be thickening of the tarsal plate. That is known as a tylosis, tarsal plate. And patient will have a Alzheimer's also. And how do you make a diagnosis? One is based on the clinical findings. Apart from that, I told you, this is one of the, I think I was searching in the literature. This is one of the most important tests, that is a IgA, IPA test. Again, this is a kind of, immunofluorescent test, assay test. It's immunoglobulin, immunoperoxidase assay test. This is one of the rapid tests, and this is one of the most important tests in diagnosis of the trachoma. And what is the treatment? We all know it's a safe treat strategy that is suggested by the WHO. And what are the medication used in a case of trachoma? Tetracycline, azithromycin. Again, similar to the previous one. Well, see, same. Whether it is a chronic form or acute form, we use same. Tetracycline, azithromycin, and systemically, azithromycin needs to be used. These are the various clinical presentation. This you can make out here. This is a pannus. Blood vessels are coming. This gray area is nothing but infiltration. Normally it will be transparent. This gray area is because of that. Okay, you have a Herbert pits here. You can make out here. This pitted scar. This you can make out only with slit lamps. Yes, you can. Of course, you can make out with the torch also. But if you want to clearly make out, only with a slit lamp examination. Once you avert the upper eyelid, you can make out there is a white horizontal line that is nothing but it's a Alt's line. Okay, this is nothing but a Alt's line. You should remember. Again, this is because of the fibrosis, scarring. Here you can make out there is an interning of the eyelashes and there is corneal opacity. So how do you classify? Classification can be either based on Macmillan's classification. This is one of the old classification, and we have a WHO classification. And Macmillan's almost similar. Only thing is they have termed as a FISTO. Classification is a FISTO. Here they have a stage 1, 2A, 2B, 3 or 4. In one, you have immature follicles. Why I'm stressing on this is, again, the question has been asked regarding based on the stages of the trachoma. Immature follicles, and you will have, in the stage 2A, you will have a florid follicular reaction. You will have a pannus formation, severe pannus formation. You will have, in 2B, you will have a papillary hyperplasia. You should remember this, okay? You will have 2A florid follicular reaction, but in 2B you will have a papillary hyperplasia. Along with that, patient in the what you call the stage 3, the patient will have a scarring on the follicles. That means patient is still having an active disease. Okay, whenever there is follicles, that means there is a disease is still active. Scarring may be in the form of Herbert pits, but those are all in a very less extent in comparison to what you call the stage 4, where you will have a very severe entropion. You will have all the corneal opacity which is covering the area, trichiasis, everything you will have. Similarly, in the fisto, in the what you call the follicular stage, you will have follicles, the numbers which are more than 5 and which are more than 0.5 millimeter in size. In an intense stage, you will have more follicles and also a papillae, and less than 50% of the palpebral conjunctival vessels are visible. This is very important. Okay, scarring, again you will have a scarring just like what you call similar to the other stage you will have in the third stage. So you will have scarring of the conjunctiva, at least one eyelash which is rubbing the eyeball is known as a trichitic eyelash. Then what is opacity? Suppose this is the cornea. Corneal opacity which is covering the pupillary area is considered to be stage 5. That is the opacity. So we'll answer some of the questions. This question was asked in PJ, I think 3 times this question has been asked, PJ and also names. Trachoma is characterized by all except papillary hypertrophy with conjunctival follicles, pannus and pits formation, that is a Herbert pits. You have a pincuscula, ectropion and ropey discharge. Then you have epithelial keratitis, dry eye, entropion and corneal opacity. Who will answer?
Third option, sir.
Yeah, it's a C. You don't see ectropion. Okay. Pincuscula again is a degeneration, nothing to do with the trachoma. Ropey discharge, you'll see in allergic conjunctivitis. Okay. Except for C, all the options are correct. Alt's line and Herbert pits are seen in trachoma. Again, we have discussed. The only option here is the trachoma. But you should know there is something known as a glaucoma. In a glaucoma, there is something known as a half striae. Okay, sorry, I think there will be half striae. Half striae, especially in a congenital glaucoma, there are something known as a half striae. What are these half striae? Nothing but because whenever there is a raised intraocular pressure, the descemet membrane will what you call rupture. So there will be a line formation. These are known as a half striae, and there will be a corneal edema. Okay. In glaucoma, you should remember this half striae. Which serotype of chlamydia causes conjunctivitis? Who will answer? Who will answer?
Option A.
See, remember, this question was asked in PJ 2012. Okay, PJ means sometimes you will have a multiple
A,
answers.
B, C. A, B, C.
Okay, that's all.
A to
I told you, right? See, the trachoma, if you remember this slide, I will show you. Did you see here? Okay, this causes genital as well as an ocular infection. Do you remember here? So all the options are correct. Okay. So you have trick, you have trachoma from chlamydial infection. Okay. So the trick is because of D to K zero, what do you call this, serotypes. This is because of A, B, C, and you have something known as a LGV, lymphogranuloma venereum. This is because of L1, L2, L3. This serotype will cause lymphogranuloma venereum and also the ocular infection. Okay, you should remember. So the options are A, B, C, and D. Okay. Inclusion conjunctivitis is caused by, who will answer? Options are chlamydia trachomatis, chlamydia psittaci, you have herpes and gonorrhea. What is the answer? See, the option is, we have discussed chlamydia trachomatis. This causes psittacosis. Okay. You should remember this. And only this chlamydia trachomatis causes the inclusion conjunctivitis. There should not be any confusion regarding this. All statements are true about the trachoma except trachoma is caused by Betsonian organism of psittacosis, lymphogranuloma, trachoma group, that is a PLT group. Second option, stains mainly responsible are A, B, BA, and C. Marked papillary hyperplasia with limbal follicles are seen in stage 3. Mature follicles are seen in stage 2A. Who will answer? I told you, right? See, this is based on McCallum's.
Option,
Tell me. Very good. Tell me.
option A, sir. Psittacosis.
No, that is the correct answer.
D, sir. D.
See, that is a group. See, that is a group. The organism belongs to
option
this
C.
group. Okay? This organism belongs to this group. Okay, we are not saying psittacosis. In the psittacosis, you will see the trachoma, nothing like that. See, the trachoma is caused by this group organism. Okay, that is the correct answer. Then you have, so what is the answer? Okay,
Option
so this is a correct option. Okay, tell me option.
C.
D, sir.
Yeah, who said C is a correct answer? Yes, very good. See, stains mainly responsible, we know. Okay, Yes, this is partially correct, acceptable. But a marked papillary hyperplasia with the limbal follicles are seen in stage 3. Stage 1, you have stage 2,
Actually,
A, stage 2B, you have 3 and 4, isn't it? In that, it's only immature follicles.
immature.
Then you have a florid follicles. Okay, then you have a papillary hypertrophy,
Papillary
isn't
hypertrophy.
it? Then you have a what? Scarring. Then you have opacity, isn't it? So look at this third option. This is the wrong answer, right? Hello, excuse me. Isn't
Yes, sir.
it?
Yes, sir.
This is
Yes.
the wrong answer. So then you have mature follicles in the stage. Correct. Okay, this is correct answer. So the classification is very, very important. You should not forget. You go back and read and remember. All are features of trachoma stage 3 except Hubbard pits, pannus, necrosis in the scar in the tarsal conjunctiva. What is the answer? There is no necrosis, isn't it? Speak out, speak out.
Necrosis and scar.
Correct. Very good. Very straightforward. If you know the classification properly, you can answer. Okay, it doesn't require any logic here. Just you have to remember the classification. This was asked in very long back, maybe around 19 years back. AIMS 2001 question paper. In the grading the trachoma, trachomatous inflammation, follicular is defined as the presence of 5 or more follicles in the lower tarsal conjunctiva. Then you have a 3 or more follicles in the lower tarsal conjunctiva, 5 or more follicles in the upper tarsal conjunctiva. Then you have 3 or more follicles in the upper tarsal conjunctiva. So what is the answer?
C.
Yeah. What's your name?
Mohan, sir.
Very good. Okay. Again, you should know that WHO classification. That is FISTO. Go back, read. If you read 2-3 times, you will remember. Okay. Very simple. So 5 or more follicles in the upper tarsal conjunctiva is defined as the presence, and the size should be more 5 or more, and also the size should be more than 0.5 millimeter. Inclusion body conjunctivitis, true is all except. It's a self-limiting condition present only in infants, occurs while passage from the birth canal, caused by chlamydia. Who will answer?
Option B.
Present only in infants.
Option? Very good, very good. Okay. It's not only, just only not only seen in infants, also seen in females. Okay, in all age group. This is the right answer. Drug of choice in trachoma is penicillin, sulfonamide, tetracycline.
Tetracycline.
Yes, very good. Remember this. Okay. Chloramphenicol is a broad spectrum antibiotic, but doesn't have any role when you have a tetracycline. Tetracycline ointment for the mass prophylaxis.
1%.
Very good. Excellent. Under the WHO Vision 2020 program, the safe strategy is adopted for which of the following disease?
Trachoma.
Very simple. Very good. Safe strategy for a trachoma include all the following except screening, antibiotics, face wash, or environmental improvement. What is the answer?
Screening.
Yeah. What S stands for?
Surgery.
What surgery? What surgery you want to do in trachoma?
Limbal.
Yeah, tell me. No problem, no issues. Okay. See, what surgery? Surgery to correct all the what you call the deformities, whether it is entropion correction or corneal opacity problem correction. Okay, these are all the problem you are going to tackle with the surgery. Okay, so surgery refers to entropion correction, corneal opacity correction. That is a penetrating keratoplasty. This we have answered. Yes, component of a safe is surgery. Now coming to the viral conjunctivitis. Again, viral conjunctivitis, how to remember? See, remember here, these two forms, again there is a trick. See, you don't have to by heart everything. Just if you know how the manifestations are, easily you can answer. See, these two forms, one is epidemic keratoconjunctivitis and pharyngoconjunctival fever are caused by adenovirus. Okay, the most, I'm talking about what are the most common viral agent which causes the conjunctivitis. Then you have herpes conjunctivitis. This you have to remember. So herpes, adenovirus, then you have something known as a picornavirus. Okay, these are the virus which majority of the time causes the conjunctivitis. Then you have a Newcastle conjunctivitis. That is because of a when you get exposed to what you call any deceased fowls. So how do you differentiate these things? Both are similar forms, but as the name suggests, pharyngoconjunctival fever, patient will have a pharyngitis and a fever, but you don't have any pharyngitis in this epidemic keratoconjunctivitis. Similarly, Newcastle conjunctivitis is almost similar to these forms, but I told you, you will have a history of exposure to diseased fowls. And herpetic conjunctivitis, you will have a recurrent form. Patient will have a corneal involvement. They will have a dendritic ulcers, loss of corneal sensation, along with the conjunctival infection. Okay. Now we will discuss one by one. The epidemic keratoconjunctivitis, here what you are supposed to remember is which is the serotype which causes the epidemic keratoconjunctivitis. This is majority what you see normally in a ophthalmic OPD. Majority of the viral conjunctivitis are because of adenoviral conjunctivitis, that is serotype 8 and 19. This you have to remember, but this is only optional, sometimes also caused by 3 and 7. Okay. What are the symptoms they will have? They will have a marked, eyelid swelling, follicular conjunctivitis. Okay, follicular, you should know what is the type of response. We know it's a follicular response. Preauricular lymph node enlargement. I told you, preauricular lymph node enlargement is seen in bacterial and all viral conjunctivitis. Okay, they will have a membrane formation. They will have a once. See, this has a two phase. One is a corneal phase that lasts for almost 7 to 10 days. Once this phase ends, then you will have a, extremely sorry, this is a conjunctival phase. Then you will have corneal phase. This will begin after 7 to 10 days. Then the patient will have blurred vision. Till that time, patient will have only discharge, discomfort. Then the patient will start developing blurring of vision and glare. Okay. So because of the corneal involvement, patient will have a subepithelial corneal infiltrates and later they will develop corneal opacity. It's very highly contagious. You should know this. Again, diagnosis based on clinical examination, but you should know immunofluorescence tests are done or you measure the immunoglobulin titers in the blood. How do you treat these cases? You should remember, no, you should not give antiviral drugs. You should, at any cost, you should not give. And first of all, they don't have any role in adenoviral conjunctivitis. That you have to keep it in mind. Okay. How do you treat? One is a decongestant, antibiotics to prevent the secondary infection, then lubricating eye drop just to wash out all the virus or to reduce the viral load. These are the different clinical manifestations. Okay, these are the subepithelial corneal infiltration. Okay, this will produce glare and photophobia. Here, this is a membrane. This yellow is membrane, right, in the inferior fornix. That with the congestion of the conjunctiva, you can make out. These are the follicles. Okay, these are the follicular response, which is seen in a adenoviral conjunctivitis. That is epidemic keratoconjunctivitis. Then you have a pharyngoconjunctival fever. I told you. Again, what is important to remember here is what is the serotype which causes the pharyngoconjunctival fever? 347. Okay. You have 8 and 19, which is causing the epidemic. Sorry. Epidemic keratoconjunctivitis. Then you have, which is 347, which is causing the pharyngoconjunctival fever. Again, this is very common. How do you differentiate? It's more common in children, but epidemic keratoconjunctivitis, which is common in all the age groups, irrespective of age group, it can occur in in all the spectrum of age groups. But this is more common in children. Again, these are same, but you'll see pharyngitis and a fever. That is very important. Pharyngitis. Fever also seen in epidemic keratoconjunctivitis, but you have to remember pharyngitis. Again, the corneal involvement is almost similar. The treatment protocol is same. Newcastle, I told you, they have the same clinical picture, but they are exposed to, because of what is the causative agent? It's contact with the diseased fowls. Herpetic conjunctivitis, I told you, you will have corneal vesicles, dendritic figures, and a reduced corneal sensation. Highly contagious again, and diagnosis similar to that. Any other viral conjunctivitis? Definitely here you have a role of antiviral medication. But adenoviral doesn't have any role. But yes, you have role of antiviral drugs here, acyclovir, vidarabine, or trifluorothioamidine, and you need to give lubricating eye drops. What is hemorrhagic conjunctivitis? You will have, again, this question has been asked in the exam. What are the causes for a hemorrhagic conjunctivitis? This is caused by the picornavirus. The agents are Coxsackie virus and enterovirus 70. You have to remember this. Also known as a Apollo conjunctivitis. Why it's Apollo conjunctivitis? Easy to remember. Apollo is a Greek god. Okay, it's a god of war. War means it's a bloody basically. So it's blood. So Apollo conjunctivitis. That's how you remember. Other name for a hemorrhagic conjunctivitis is a Apollo conjunctivitis. You will have a violent inflammatory conjunctivitis. You can make out here. There is a conjunctivitis. Along with that, there will be subconjunctival hemorrhage. Highly contagious. And how do you treat? Again, there is no treatment for this. Only thing is you need to give only lubricating eye drops, and also you can support with the antibiotic eye drops to prevent the secondary infections. Let's answer some of the questions. A patient, this was asked in 2001 AIMS. A patient complained of pain in both the eyes, congestion, blurring of vision, photophobia, and mucopurulent discharge since one day. Many cases have been reported from the same community. The causative agent is probably, okay, since one day. Very simple. So the options here are adenoviral, enterovirus, herpes simplex, and echovirus. I told you, right? The most commonest cause adenovirus. Very simple. Close your eye. Just you have to remember this is the adenoviral is the causative agent. Hemorrhagic conjunctivitis occurs with, this was asked in 2002 and also in DNB 2015. So it's recent.
Picornavirus.
What are the other? What are the
Coxsackie virus, enterovirus 70.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. Remember, which of the following does not cause hemorrhagic conjunctivitis? Who will answer this question? This is a little bit tricky. Why is papilloma? Why not adenovirus? Yes, I told you, right? Adenoviral will have a very severe infection where you can have a subconjunctival hemorrhage. Okay. So this is also one option. This is definitely an option. This is also option. Papilloma virus. But what papilloma virus causes? Who will answer?
Human papilloma.
Yes, just like anywhere in the
Cervical
body,
cancer.
this
Cervical
causes
cancer.
basically the papilloma formation. Okay, or papilloma formation you can have, or else it can cause cancer, OSSN. Okay, ocular surface squamous neoplasia. Okay, it causes squamous papilloma, a benign lesion, or OSSN. You have to remember this. It doesn't cause any conjunctivitis. Next, coming to the other form of spectrum of disease, that is the ophthalmia neonatorum. Again, this is a group of disease where, it's a group of conjunctivitis or a spectrum of conjunctivitis characterized by mucoid or a mucopurulent discharge, pus discharge from one or both the eyes in the first month. This you have to remember. Okay, the neonates are in basically in the less than 4 weeks of age, you will have an infection of the eyelid, conjunctiva. What are the? How do you differentiate from the other causes? What are the differential for this? One is a congenital nasolacrimal duct obstruction. You have acute dacryocystitis cystitis. Then you have a congenital glaucoma. And what is the mode and the source of infection at the time of birth? By the contamination of the birth canal. So how do you differentiate? See, if you look at the 4 diagrams, here you can make out the eyelids are swollen. There is, the crustation of the eyelashes, the pus which is stuck to the eyelid, discharge. This is and it's very difficult to, just retract both the eyelids, both the eyelids, it's very difficult to retract. But look at this, patient has a what you call the cloudy cornea, and the eyeball is definitely larger. Okay, this is a congenital glaucoma. Okay, this is a congenital glaucoma where the eyeball will be larger because of a raised intraocular pressure that will exert force on the eyeball layers, that will result in the enlargement of the cornea. Okay, so because of that, the patient will have a bull's eye appearance known as ophthalmos. Okay, you have to remember this, ophthalmos. So here eyelids will be normal. Patient, what are the symptoms? Patient will have photophobia because stretching of the nerves will cause photophobia. Then the patient will have a lacrimation, excessive watering, and patient will have a ophthalmos. These are all the symptoms, and there won't be any redness at all. You will have a redness, but it will be less, very, very minimal in comparison to any conjunctival infection. Then you have a conjunctival nasolacrimal duct obstruction where you have matting of the lashes and there will be excessive watering. You will see. And the conjunctiva will be absolutely fine. Eyelids won't be edematous. They will clearly open their eyes. So this is a conjunctival, what you call the congenital NLDO, nasolacrimal duct obstruction. Then you have something known as congenital amniocele or acute congenital dacryocystitis or amniocele, because this contains inside there will be amniotic fluid. Once it get inflamed, that will form especially within the what you call the lacrimal sac, that will produce infection that is known as a congenital what you call the acute dacryocystitis. Again, here the conjunctiva will appear as normal. There will be a mass here. Sorry, there will be an obvious mass at the medial aspect of the eyeball that you can make out. This is how you differentiate all the 4 differential diagnoses. Then coming to ophthalmia neonatorum proper, what are the causative agents of an infection of the conjunctiva? Based on the duration, the causes can be different. If the conjunctivitis occurs less than 48 hours after birth, causes are Neisseria gonorrhea, and you have a chemical. That is nothing but chemical is silver nitrate. Okay, this causes the earliest conjunctival infection, conjunctivitis. In the olden days, maybe in the 19th century, this silver nitrate used to be the treatment of choice to prevent the ophthalmia neonatorum. Okay, what they thought, actually it agglutinates all the gonorrheal diplococci, but then they observed because of this chemical, patients started developing conjunctivitis known as a chemically induced conjunctivitis. Okay, then they stop. This method was used known as a Credis method, if you remember. Okay, silver nitrate was used to be a treatment of choice to prevent the conjunctivitis in the 19th century, and over a period of time that has been stopped now. So this actually, the silver nitrate causes the, within few hours after instillation, patient will start developing the conjunctivitis, and within 36 hours that will resolve. But the Neisseria gonorrhea will have, within 48 hours, they will have a very severe conjunctival infection. They will have a lid edema, everything. How do you treat this condition? Topically, gentamicin and the bezitracin is the drug of choice. Systemically, the patient needs to be started on ceftriaxone. Okay, or cefatoxin is the treatment of choice here. Give a thorough AC wash, and eye ointment erythromycin needs to be used. And if the duration, when the conjunctivitis develops between 48 hours to 72 hours, what are the causes? It's bacterial. Very simple. What are the most common bacteria? Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, and other gram-negative coliform bacteria. How do you treat this condition? The treatment is, again, the ointment, neomycin and bezitracin is the best ointment when you have a bacterial infection, or you can use gentamicin and tobramycin. I told you, right? In children, the best drops or ointment will be gentamicin or a tobramycin. You should remember this. When the duration of onset is between 5 to 7 days, causes herpes simplex, especially the HSV2 type, that causes the ophthalmia neonatorum. The treatment option is acyclovir. You have to remember, topical or a vidarabine, and systemically you have to give acyclovir. When the onset is after 1 week of birth, it's purely because of chlamydial infection. Treatment of choice, erythromycin, tetracycline, or systemic erythromycin needs to be given. This question again has been asked multiple times. Ophthalmia neonatorum is caused by all except gonorrhea, chlamydia, Haemophilus pseudomonas or Staphylococcus, Aspergillus, syphilis. The fourth option is chemical or virus. Who will answer?
Aspergillus.
Yeah, very good. Very straightforward. If you know the classification, very easy to answer. Okay. There is no shortcut. You should know this. This is very, very important classification, and quite frequently they ask many questions related to this. Unilateral watery discharge from an eye of a newborn with no edema, no chemosis is due to. Who will answer? A unilateral watery discharge. Okay. Watery discharge, no edema, no chemosis. So what is the answer here? Who will answer?
Monococcus. No.
Anybody? Mohan?
I think chemical conjunctivitis.
Yes, very good. Yes, you are right. Okay. Chlamydia causes a very severe lead. I told you, right? It causes a severe edema of the eyelid, chemosis, everything will be there, whether it is a chlamydia or gonococcus, whatever. But chemical conjunctivitis is just a reaction, allergic kind of allergic reaction. So there won't be any edema, no chemosis, nothing, but patient will have only watery discharge because it's chemical. Okay, if you remember what are the types of the discharge from the eye, chemical will produce watery discharge or mucoid discharge. Okay, all the bacteria will produce mucoid discharge. And normally the bacterial infections are very severe. If you compare between bacterial and a viral conjunctivitis, bacterial are very severe. They will have a pseudomembrane formation. I explained in the previous slides. But if you compare to the viral infections, they are, yes, adenoviral is one of the what you call the very severe form. But if you compare to bacterial has membrane formations. Which one of the following is not given in ophthalmia neonatorum? Erythromycin, option A, erythromycin locally, B, tetracycline, penicillin locally, or silver nitrate.
Silver nitrate.
Yes. Okay. I told you, right? This was given in the olden days to prevent the ophthalmia neonatorum because that time the gonococcal infection was very prevalent. So they used to give for all kids, whether the patient kid had what you call mother had gonococcal infection or not, they used to put the drops. Okay, that was used rationally, and over a period of time, some what you call the children started developing the conjunctival infection that is termed as a chemical conjunctivitis. Non-infectious causes. What are the non-infectious causes? You have allergic, you have allergic conjunctivitis, immune-mediated or endogenous cause associated with the systemic disorders, toxin or a chemical conjunctivitis. Okay. In the allergic conjunctivitis, again, just with the names you can remember, it's not so confusing, though it looks, the list looks very big, but seasonal or hay fever conjunctivitis refers to, it occurs only in certain seasons, not always. Perennial allergic conjunctivitis refers to throughout the year, it present throughout the year. Okay. Vernal conjunctivitis, again, it's similar to these. Again, it's also known as a spring catarrh. Only in a hot summer, you'll find this. Atopic conjunctivitis, again, it's a similar to VKC. Sorry for this. But atopic is a very severe form and it occurs in usually between adults, between 30 to 40 years of age. This occurs, VKC occurs in the children. Giant papillary conjunctivitis, as the name suggests, they will have a very, very big papillae which are in the dimensions of 1 to 2 millimeter in size, and normally because of any kind of any foreign body reaction that we will discuss in detail. And the sixth option is a contact dermatitis. Suppose if you put any eye drops, a dilating eye drops, a person who is very sensitive for that dilating eye drop, he will develop a contact dermatoconjunctivitis. Very simple. So in all the cases, how do you treat? See, whether in all allergic conjunctivitis, the treatment, why I put this slide before discussing the how the presentation of the causative agent, you have to remember all allergic conjunctivitis is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, what do you mean by type 1 hypersensitivity reaction? Suppose a person who is sensitized to certain antigens, maybe a pollen, dust, whatever, okay, in the blood system, that will stimulate the formation of IgE bodies. So it's IgE mediated immune reaction. So whenever there is any exposed to any kind of causative agent, immediately the person will develop this allergic conjunctivitis. And this IgE antigen complex, which goes and stimulate the mast cells. Okay, mast cells. This mast cell will degranulate and release all the inflammatory agents. Okay, So how did it get attached? Through H1 receptors, histaminic receptors. So what is the treatment for this? You have either we can block this what you call the interaction, antigen antibody interaction into the H1 receptor of the mast cell, or you can inhibit this degranulation of the mast cell. So the treatment options are either you block the H1 receptor using a H1 receptor agonist such as a levobastine, imidastines, or mast cell stabilizers. Most commonly used one are cromolyn sodium. Okay. Then you have a dual action drugs which is very commonly used, that is a olopatadine. This is every day, every ophthalmologist are using. This is a olopatadine which is used for allergic conjunctivitis. This olopatadine has a dual effect. Okay, you have to remember this. That means it is act as a H1 agonist. Also, it mast cell stabilizer. Okay, then you have topical non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like ketorolac. You have a vasoconstrictor because whenever the mast cell get degranulated, that will cause a inflammatory agents that will vasodilate. So the vasoconstricting agents like nefazoline or CPM, chlorpheniramine maleate. Then you have as topical steroids. This is again one important topic. We give very weak steroids. You have to remember this. Okay. Out of which loteprednol is very commonly used. Then you have a fluoromethalon, remixilon. Apart from this, you have a something known as a dexamethasone. Then you have prednisolone. These are a very potent steroids, but only in case if these are not available, then you can think of going for this. Or else we don't recommend this very potent steroids. Only loteprednol and fluoromethalon are used in allergic conjunctivitis. Along with that, we give oral antihistaminics like fexofenadine and loratadine, cetirizine. So if you know this, if you know the concept, what is the cause for a allergic reaction, and if you know the drugs, easy to answer any kind of questions. As I told you in the beginning, seasonal allergic conjunctivitis or a perennial allergic conjunctivitis has the same clinical picture. Only thing is, this is only seasonal, but this is throughout the year. This is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. All allergic conjunctivitis are type 1 allergic conjunctivity reaction. Next time we will discuss what are the types of hypersensitivity reactions in at least in the ophthalmology. They will have a redness, and you should remember apart from everything, you will have a papillary hyperplasia and you will have a ropey discharge. These two are very important differentiating points. Okay, papillary, not a follicular, and they will have a ropey discharge, no mucopurulent discharge. Over a period of time, they will have a muddy conjunctiva and they will develop dry eyes and they will develop keratoconus. Because of frequent rubbing, that will cause a trauma to the micro trauma to the cornea that will result in keratoconus. So how do you treat these conditions? One, by desensitization, eliminate the allergens, avoid all the dust and all. Okay. And treatment, already we have discussed, decongestant, antihistaminics or a mast cell stabilizers. Or at last, you can think of going for a steroids. Vernal VKC again is a type 1. You should know here, again because of exposure to pollen or exogenous allergens, contact with the animals, IG mediated recurrent, it's a bilateral, more common in hot weather. But actually it says it's spring catarrh, but actually it's seen in hot summer. Okay, you have to remember this. And children, but atopic conjunctivitis is seen between the age group of 30 to 40 years, but this is seen in children. Always is a self-limiting condition. After 10 to 15 years, 5 to 10 years, it will just disappears. You have to remember this. They will have all the features of allergic conjunctivitis. The extra thing is they will have a cobblestone appearance. I will show you the photograph. Then they will have I will show it here. Okay, this is the clinical presentation. They will have raised big papillae known as a cobblestone appearance. This pattern is known as a cobblestone appearance. Okay, then you have The VKC has two forms. One is palpebral form, then you have a limbal form. When the palpebral conjunctiva is involved, that is a palpebral form. When the limbal conjunctiva is involved, it's a limbal form. Limbal form will have this gelatinous, the material which is deposited at the limbus, and this contains basically the eosinophils, and you have dead epithelial cells. They will form like a gelatinous structures at the limbus, known as these are known as Horner-Trantas spots. Okay. Then because this what you call the tear contains all the inflammatory mediators that once it comes in contact with the cornea, that will destroy the corneal epithelium and also the Bowman's membrane. Then the patient will develop an ulcer known as a shield ulcer. Okay. So these are all the presentation of a vernal keratoconjunctivitis. Horner-Trantas spots, shield ulcer, then over a period of time the patient will develop keratoconus. How do you treat? Again the same thing. Extra, what is the important thing is you will add one more thing known as a mucolytic agent, that is a acetylcysteine. 10 to 20% acetylcysteine topical eye drop is added. Along with that, what are the other options you have? Surgical options like subtarsal injection of a steroid known as a triamcinolone. Then, or you can do cryotherapy to destroy all the papillae. Then you can surgically excise all the papillae. Then how do you treat the shield ulcer? Debride the cornea, cover with the amniotic membrane graft or with the bandage contact lens. What is this bandage contact lens? This is just like a normal contact lens but doesn't have any power. That is to protect the cornea. Atopic conjunctivitis similar to the vernal keratoconjunctivitis, but even in a VKC patient, you will have all this family history or personal history. They will have this. You should know these things. And usually between the age group of 30 to 40 years, they will have a history of asthma, allergic rhinitis, or atopic eczematoid dermatitis. Again, but this is again a severe form, severe than the VKC form. Again, the treatment is same. Giant papillary conjunctivitis is little bit different from the other form of conjunctivitis. It's a type 1 and a type 4, and it's purely because of the soft contact lens uses. They will ask question, a patient using a contact lens, what is the type of conjunctivitis? You will see VKC, GPC. The option is GPC, you have to remember. And any sutures, any foreign material inside the conjunctival sac will produce a giant papillary conjunctivitis. A soft contact lens which has a chemicals that induces the hypersensitivity reaction, or due to any prosthesis, ocular prosthesis will produce what you call the giant papillary conjunctivitis. Sizes are more than 1 to 2 millimeter in size. You can make out here. Okay, very big papillae. How do you treat? Remove all the causative agents. That is the treatment of choice. Very simple. We will answer some of the questions. This question was asked in 2013. A ropey discharge is seen in trachoma, VKC, corneal ulcer, and EKC.
VKC.
Huh?
Option B, sir. VKC. Vernal.
Okay, good. The option is, yeah, good. Spring catarrh or vernal conjunctivitis is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, type 2, type 3, or a type 4. What is the option?
Type 4.
Type 4?
Type 1, sir.
Type 1.
Type 1. See, you need to understand. Type 1 is IgE mediated. Just now I explained you, right? Okay, or an anaphylactic reaction. Type 2 is a cytotoxic. Okay, where the what you call the antibodies mediated by IgM and IgG. This will destroy the cells. You have type 3. Type 3 is a immune complex mediated, where immunoglobulins and antibody will get deposited on the basement membrane. Okay, it's an immune complex mediated hypersensitivity reaction. Then you have fourth one, that is a cell mediated immune, what you call the hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, what are the example for this? All allergic conjunctivitis are type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. I'm talking about only the ophthalmic field, okay? But the what you call the classification is same. Type 2 examples are, if you read ocular cicatricial pemphigoid or a pemphigus. These are the, just like the rest of the body, you have what you call the pemphigoid or a pemphigus, you'll have here also involving the conjunctiva. Then here, immune complex mediated, where that will get deposited on the basement membrane. Examples are vasculitis, okay? Like polyarteritis nodosa, all kind of vasculitis which is seen in the retina are type 3 immune mediated reaction. Type 4 is a granulomatous reaction, okay? Granulomatous reaction, just like you saw GPC, giant papillary conjunctivitis, it's partly also because of 4. Other form, whether it is syphilis, tuberculosis, sarcoidosis, all are cell-mediated, what you call the hypersensitivity reaction. Here, the spring catarrh is type
1.
Type 1. Okay, hope you understood everything little bit. Okay. And cobblestone appearance of a conjunctiva typically seen with flectonular conjunctivitis, foreign body, spring catarrh, and trachoma.
Spring catarrh.
Very good. Okay. If you remember the diagram, you can answer. Trantas spots are seen in vernal conjunctivitis, eczematous conjunctivitis, ophthalmia nodosa, or tularemia. What is the answer?
Vernal conjunctivitis.
Yeah. What is when you within the conjunctival sac or in the hair follicle, caterpillar hair, especially the caterpillar hairs, okay, when it get impacted, that will results in the reaction, immune reaction, that is known as ophthalmia nodosa. A 12-year-old boy presents with recurrent attacks of conjunctivitis for the last 2 years with an intense itching and a ropey discharge. The symptoms are more severe in summer. The diagnosis is vernal conjunctivitis, flectonular conjunctivitis, trachoma, and viral conjunctivitis. Again, it's very simple. What do you call the 12-year-old boy, lasts for 2 years, intense itching, ropey discharge, all are in favor of vernal conjunctivitis. It's not a flectonular conjunctivitis, where the patient will have pain, okay, photophobia. These are all the symptoms. It's not a viral conjunctivitis or a trachoma. Recurrent bilateral conjunctivitis occurring with the onset of hot weather in a young boys with the symptoms of foreign body sensation, burning, itching, lacrimation with polygonal raised areas in the palpebral conjunctiva is, options are trachoma, flectonular conjunctivitis, mucopurulent conjunctivitis, and a vernal keratoconjunctivitis. Again, with the history, and if you know the theory part, the answer is vernal conjunctivitis. Spring catarrh is characterized by papillary hyperplasia, Horner, Trantas spots, shield ulcer, pseudogerontoxin. Again, sorry, this is the same thing. Okay, this is nothing but when you have a cornea, you have Horner Trantas spots. When this ruptures and forms a scar, that is known as a pseudogerontoxin. Okay. Then you have a Herbert Pitt's, itching, ropey discharge, mild hyperemia. Herbert Pitt's Panus follicular hypertrophy, ciliary congestion. And the last option is present throughout the year. This question has been asked multiple, almost 5 times. So, what is the answer?
A, B, C, and E.
And
E, sir. Last one.
okay, correct. Very good. What about these things? Where do you see Herbert Pitt's Panus follicular hypertrophy,
Trachoma.
trachoma? Good. Treatment of VKC include all except steroids, chromoglycate, olopatadine, and antibiotics. What do you give? What is the option here? What is not given here? What is not given here? Anybody? Mohan, Roshan?
Antibiotic.
Antibiotics.
Yeah. You're not going to give antibiotics. In the sense, yes. See, the least important one. Steroid, yes, needs to be given. Chromoglycolate has to be given. Olopatadine needs to be given. Antibiotic really doesn't have any role except for in a secondary infections. Complications of VKC are cataract, keratoconus, retinal detachment, and a vitreous hemorrhage. This is the last question and the last slide. Who will answer? Anybody? Yes, you're right. See, you should know. See, if you know the concept, I don't think you will forget these things. Okay, this is only for the PGs, but you should remember how the keratoconus develops in a VKC. You have a VKC. In a VKC, you will have intense itching. Whenever itching, you rub your eyes. Okay, rubbing the eyes will cause microtrauma. Microtrauma will cause something known as a keratocytes will undergo apoptosis. Okay, microtrauma means whenever you rub, the keratocytes which is there in the stroma of the cornea will undergo apoptosis, that will release interleukin 1. Okay, this interleukin will cause lysis of the collagen fibers. Okay, whenever there is a lysis of the collagen fiber, and the strength of the cornea will become less, and the cornea will protrude, forming a keratoconus. Okay, so this is the reason for having a keratoconus when a patient has very long standing vernal keratoconjunctivitis. And if they rub their eyes, they will land up in having keratoconus. And we don't see cataract formation. Cataract formation, of course, if you use steroids, that is for a very long standing. But before cataract, the patient will develop glaucoma, okay, because of the steroid. So this is also ruled out. Retinal detachment, nowhere in the track here. Then you have a vitreous hemorrhage, that is also nowhere related here. Okay. With this, the option is keratoconus. If you know this flow chart, very simple. If you know the concept, I don't think you'll forget. With this, I think today we will conclude the class. Maybe next time we have another, I think, 10 or 15 slides. Along with that, I will include the sclera also. Sclera, again, you have a very small topic. Okay. If you have any doubts, let me know. With this, I conclude the class for today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
sir.
Okay.
Okay, students. You have any doubts, you can ask, sir.
If you have any doubts, let me know. Anything if you are not understood. Or you go back and read. Okay. You have, I think, recorded class. You go back and read immediately. Okay. If you see, how do you remember the points? Very simple. You have to read it multiple times. If you read multiple times, you're not going to forget. Very simple. Today, after the class, you just leave it like that. Again, you'll forget everything. You go back and read. Don't forget. Thank you.
Students can leave. ಧೀರಜ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಸರ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಸರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್
Sir.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಸರ್
ಹಾ ಹಾ
ಅಷ್ಟೇ